Morning, Anthony. Where do you want to start? A decent weekend football, considering the atrocious weather conditions.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. Festival of football. My wife was complaining yesterday. She's like, how many more games are you going to watch today? It's just like YouTube, TG Cahir, RTE, just keep going on. It was great. I think like Dublin, obviously, and Monaghan on Saturday night was interesting, to say the least. I think Monaghan are obviously, like, I mean, they looked like a team that were at full tilt. You know, each of the players looked extremely conditioned and fit, and they were flat out right from minute one. And they could have won the game. They should have won the game if they'd put more of their chances away in the first half. Like, I mean, they easily probably kicked away, I think, 1-7 in the first half. There was a point they got where I think the half-back kicked it, and he easily could have just come in for a goal. I don't know if you remember that in the first about 10 minutes. And then some of their shot selection in the second half, which has been a bit of an Achilles heel for them over the last number of years, that really came back to haunt them.
Can you fix that?
Well, like, people would say they have an over-reliance, obviously, on McManus. And when you have a guy that good, there's always going to be an over-reliance on him, because you're going to give him the ball. But as a matter of fact, I would have tried to give him the ball more on Saturday night. You know, he got on a good bit of ball, but there was a few guys taking shots, and you really would have said, listen, that's outside your scope. It's not in your locker. Try to find the inside man, because he's so lethal when he comes around, especially on a night like that where it's slippy. You know, he's able to come around the corner, just take it off. The referees all over the weekend, we won't even go near the timing thing yet, but the referees were quite, you know, because when it's wet and if a fella pulls and you go down, you're nearly going to get the free. Yeah. And the likes of him would have been able to pull a couple of frees out of the bag. And it's kind of like, when you come up against Dublin, especially in a situation like that, Monaghan have done well against them in the last number of years, but you're flying along, you really should be saying to yourself, right, we need to take these, because Dublin looked to me like they had done a really heavy week. They were leggy, they were completely disinterested. Like, if you watch, what Monaghan do is, Monaghan they try to counter-attack you very quickly. So once they receive the ball from you in their own defence, basically everyone goes. It doesn't matter. A full-back could go, a corner-back could go. It doesn't matter. Fellas go, and they go beyond the kind of next line, if you get me, beyond the half-forward line of Dublin, and they go into midfield. So once they get one pass away, they look to kick it over that kind of blanket, if you get me, into space, and then they have runners. And they did that really, really well the other night. Guys literally tearing up the field. Like the centre-half back got a couple of scores from doing that, just going, you know, and it really worked out well for them. Like, they got a few breaks of the ball where the ball just ended up popping out in front of fellas that had gone advanced. But in the second half, Dublin really pressed them in their own half. So Dublin, you could see the intensity of the tackle right away after half-time was increased, and they were hunting them and chasing them, and they're making it much more difficult for them to come out. And then Dublin started to get a bit of joy from that. It's a risky game that Monaghan play, because if I have the ball over in the corner and, you know, you have now gone past me, I don't have that simple little pass back. I now the onus is on me to try and find my way out and to get the ball to you. And if I don't get it to you, we're now a couple of numbers down.
It's funny, because I didn't see the whole game, but I rewound and watched the last 15 minutes. When they were trying to play keep ball in their own defence, it was almost like they weren't used to it, that there wasn't enough numbers around, and they were getting caught. As they had a 7-point lead, it became a 6-point lead, it became a 5-point lead. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, and it's a bit of both. I think what, like, Banty would have always wanted, he wants to exit really quickly, you know, and that's his thing. So he wants to get out of there at pace very, very, very quickly, either by hand or by foot. So his thing would be that, you know, if Owen has it and I'm close by and you're inside, you're gone. You are now not a real help to him. Whereas other teams will say, listen, well, we'll have a man here that if Owen gets in trouble, he can come back to me, and then we'll keep it spread.
And let's have a bit of,
exactly. You have a bit of protection. Yeah. Whereas it's a bit more risky.
And you need to play situationally. Like, you need to be, what happens if we're 7 points up with 5 minutes to go? Let's just kill the game. Pass, 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 run, pass, pass, pass. But they couldn't do it.
Especially because Began is so good on the ball.
That's
He's
the thing.
a perfect 16th man, 15th man.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is. And what they should have done is probably brought it up and just, like, I mean, he was unbelievable. Like, I mean, a special mention has to be said for him. Like, he's unnerving. Like, some of the frees he kicked were just unbelievable. But then his kickouts as well. Like, myself and Morgan, I watched both of them very closely over the weekend. Like, and I've had this idea, remember we mentioned it a couple of years ago, that, you know, you really should train kids who want to go in goals to be able to kick left and right foot. You know, like, it should be imperative. They should be able to stand right behind the ball. And although the camera angle wasn't great, I was trying to watch himself and Morgan, and the two of them start very much straight. Yeah, it's very difficult as a midfielder. No, you don't. Yeah. Like, I mean, and especially Began. You know, he's standing directly behind the ball, and only at the last second of a run-up does he switch his shoulders and fire it out right or left. And it's extremely difficult. You know, if you have any kind of a pattern where you're moving the opposition midfielders to his left, and then you have a guy bolting out right, and he's well able to find it. He has a massive range. He's able to do the short ones, and he's able to get beyond a lot of the opposition, the defence, the press that they put on. But then from dead ball, like, he's just unnerving. Like, some of the boomers he kicked, himself and Morgan were fantastic, I thought. Is
there a chance that Dublin are just messing with all of us, and that they're so good at, you say, situational football, that they just want to get out alive from all of these league games? They're like 10 points down, no problem. Whatever, 3 points down against Kerry, no problem. A few points down against Mayo at the start, no problem. Like, they will always win these All-Ireland finals by either drawing the first game and winning the replay by a point, or winning the first game by a point. They just, like, in actual fact, they're maybe 2020 points better than everybody, like, but they're so good at just...
helicopter sounds and an LSD flashback to Nam here, is that what it is?
Basically. Like, I just wonder if this whole notion that we have of, like, these underperformances from Dublin in All-Ireland finals are actually the exact opposite, that they're so good in All-Ireland finals, that they're so chilled out about it, that they're like, right, 5 minutes to go, grand, let's win this game by a point.
I'd hate to think it is like that. I really would, because that would really be the death knell of the game. I definitely think that was the case on Saturday. Like, I mean, they were absolutely... If you watch some of the body language of the likes of Scully and Howard, who would be seen as being their energy guys, and Kilkenny, it was just non-existent in the first half. Like, they were letting Monaghan guys just fly past them. And, you know, and when you're coming up against a team, and the reason why I'm saying that against Monaghan, when you're half-baked against that, right, I come in to challenge you, Ger. And as I'm coming in to challenge you, the challenge isn't really crisp. So you've now got the ball away to the guys who've gone, and then everyone is cut, and everyone is just chasing back, and the scores are going over. And you're kind of going, what's wrong? But the actual source of it is not being stopped. When they really got up to it, and you could see right from the throw-in, they started kind of hitting a few fellas. They showed their intent, and the intent was massively different. Never mind the breeze and all that stuff, but the intent was there, and they got a fair kicking. I'd say they looked disinterested, as I thought. They looked like they had done a really heavy week, and when they needed to turn it on, they did turn it on. But then they, you know, again, the quality that they were able to bring in. Like, Bugler, I think, is one who will be...
Real deal.
The real deal. He's a big individual. He's well able to motor. He's very confident. His scores were excellent. Like I think it was the equalising score that he got, or the one before, where he just, like, it was like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
He didn't look to anyone else. He literally took the responsibility on, you know. And I think obviously McMenamum caused problems when he came in too. But that's what they can do. I thought McCarthy was unbelievable. I thought he was one fella in the first half and second half who just put the shoulder to the wheel.
Footballer of the Year contender, of course. Has Anthony ever got a man sent off a la Ben McDonald or on David Clifford in Dungannon? Comes the slightly loaded question from somebody this morning. It's not from Owen, it's from somebody else. It's from an anonymous user.
No.
Come on, you must have. You're a wily old fox, and at the end of your career, I'm going to go in there and that kid now, he's already got a yellow. We'll start a little row. Boom.
Yeah, no, I don't think I did, actually.
You'd send somebody else to do that.
Yeah. Why do the dirty work when you know you have someone else? Look, it was, you know, it's funny. You couldn't really see the incident until they obviously went back on the previous incident with I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Gainey, but the camera angle, and it was ridiculous. But it was the umpire who called it. The referee wasn't going to go there, and the umpire called them in and said, you know, obviously saw... And my issue with umpires is, and I know it's been said a lot, but umpires are generally from the nucleus of the friends or family of the referee. That is simply it. I don't know if you have to have any qualifications. I know referees have to go and do the referees courses and all that stuff. I doubt umpires do. And generally linesmen are referees, right? So the two lads on the sideline have got all their qualifications, but the four, which is actually the majority of the eyes on the game, don't.
And the most powerful, in that they can actually signal to the referee that they've seen something.
Seen something. The worst as a full-back or as a cornerback, and this is getting into the cornerback brigade, but so Owen is the corner forward, he pulls me, I then pull him, and the umpire sees me pulling him, calls him in, free, easy free, right? So there's always, like, an umpire has a situation where I don't even know where they look. I don't know if they're just viewing what's going on in front of them with the 6 guys in front of them. I don't know if they're viewing up the field. I actually don't even know what their MO is.
Yeah.
I mean, what exactly are they there to do? Is it just to keep an eye on the post and make sure
we have
it's
two of
scored?
them. We have 2 of them. One of them should be the post person, and the other should be what's happening in the 21. And that should be like, do you see anything that's worthy of a foul either way? And you keep an eye on that, because that would if that was their job and you knew that you were being watched, then. And the other one could just stand behind the goal instead of stand beside it and go, yeah, that was a point, that wasn't a point, that was a point.
And I'd say most of them, what happens is they end up watching the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Best seats in the house.
Supporter. Like, I'm not being bad, but I think that's generally what happens. So in a situation like what's happened the other night, you obviously see that Clifford is walking back. There's a bit of something going on. You call the referee and go, listen, he's being, the cornerback has had a go at him. Just have a word with both of them. Calm it down.
There's a pair at the minute, ref, I'd say, yeah, book him for each of them.
And then, well, that's it, right? But so the referee then obviously needs to use his common sense when he comes in and goes, well, I definitely know Clifford's on a yellow. Does he really deserve to be red, gone for this? I'm not so sure myself. I didn't see it. So you just go in, you have a word, and you just say, right, look, fellas, calm it down.
I was making the case to Owen earlier, though, that like it's impossible to, if there's no sanction for that wrestling on the ground, then you're going to see a lot more of it. Like the reason the booking to both of them exists is because it happens so often that if you don't do anything, somebody will start that fight in loads of situations and there's no punishment for it. In situations like this where somebody's already booked, it's completely ridiculous. But it serves a purpose to book both of them, in that it stops everybody else from just turning it into a dragging and pulling game.
Yeah, I suppose it does. Like, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence with that, because I think if that's your game as a defender, and you're going to spend a lot of the time on the ground and very little time doing anything else, right?
That might be okay. So if I'm marking David Clifford and we spend most of our time on the ground and he scores 3 points instead of 7 points, that's a big win for me.
Yeah, you can look at it, you can definitely argue with that, absolutely. But I think where it becomes, where just me holding on down becomes, well, potentially yellow card offence or something like that is that if, I have to physically put my elbow on him or something like this, or my hand goes up onto his throat or something. Because
how does he stop you doing that, though?
Well, he obviously has to,
and he gets
physically manage you. Yeah, exactly. So it's the referee, no doubt. I thought. Look, the referees probably had a tricky enough time the weekend with the conditions. But what ends up happening is, and again, we don't want to talk about referees all the time, but what ends up happening is there's no real consistency level. One guy plays it that, well, it's wet and dirty ball, so anything that's on the ground, I'm going to blow it and give frees. I thought some of the frees in the Tyrone Kerry game were really, really cheap. They were like some of the frees that Kerry got the first half against Tyrone, where they were just running into bodies.
100%, yeah.
And it was like, and you could see the Tyrone fellas were getting frustrated. And I was saying to myself, this thing is going to boil over here. All it'll take is an incident. And the frustration levels rise, and then the opposite happened with Kerry in the second half. Yeah. And you're kind of going... And that is really where you need a referee who is absolutely all over it with common sense.
Just let's talk in bigger terms about what a win for Tyrone coming through that match actually means. We were writing Tyrone off 2 weeks ago when they didn't have McShane, kind of saying, look, and they're not going to have Matty Donnelly for most of the league, and who knows what he's going to come back like after the severity of the injury. But a win like that where they grind it out and they get McShane back and the car horns are hooting from the sidelines.
Well, they basically won without McShane and Donnelly yesterday. McShane kicked 1 point from a dead ball, but he didn't really do much. So that's a huge win without their 2 best players, essentially, I would have thought.
No, it was a big win. McCurry, I thought, was absolutely... Like, he just has one of those days. Like, he should have scored at least another 2 or 3. Like, actually, he kicked 1 or 2 that were easier than the ones he kicked around that. But I thought he led the run really well. He's a guy, I'd say, who's been frustrated over the last number of years because he's been in, out, taken on, taken off. And yesterday he really stood up and said, no, actually, I'm one of the men here. And it was actually funny, when McShane came on, he had a chance to give him a ball, and he just went, no, I'm actually going to, this is going to be me, and he slipped it over. He's a guy who I think has all the ability. Like, he's left and right foot. He caused Meath problems. I know in the first game. I thought McShane is a big boy. Like, I mean, he's well able to bully and do whatever he needs to do in there as well. He's a great target man. Like, no, I don't think writing them off is the way forward. I think yesterday will be a big fill-up for them. Yeah. Now, look, that fixture yesterday, I was thinking to myself, you're going to bed as a Kerry player on Saturday night and you're checking the weather app and you're just saying to yourself, oh, this is not where I'd rather be on a Sunday. And you're heading up and you know it's going to be dogged and you know it's going to be all the way and everything you can. And it's just one of those things there. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You put a massive effort in, and it's just a hard game. It's a really, really tough game for you. And the way it went, obviously, with the first half and stuff, I thought Kerry should have been out in front. I thought O'Shea had a poor game. He kicked 3 or 4 really bad shots where they just dropped into the keeper's hands and went wide, and they needed to build up more of a lead. He looked a little bit off to me, actually. But it's funny. It was a good win for Tyrone.
Quick word about Galway here. So they got Letterkenny and they win by a single point against the Donegal team, who've been playing quite well and who've been scoring goals and continue to score goals yesterday. 2-8 to 2-7 was the full-time score. Again, this is one of those wins that, like, a Galway team needs to dog out, and they do, and suddenly we start thinking about them a bit differently. Yeah, and it's funny, they were well behind. I think it was, maybe 2-6 to 4, something like that. I'm not sure the exact score, but they were well behind at one stage, around 40-something minutes gone. And I kind of said to myself, wow, there's no way they're coming back from this, because Donegal looked well in control. Donegal caught them with a classic goal where they were going across lateral on the pitch, and if you watch it, it was brilliant. They give it back to McHugh. The Galway lads, instead of actually just holding their line, started chasing them out. McHugh just goes around one of them. 2 fellas step up and he just pops the ball into the space and just straight down through the middle. Galway have issues there at 6, the same though as Donegal have issues at 6, because once Galway decided actually we're going to just come in at angles and run directly at them, they had runners and they got in behind and they sighted through the middle. Shane Walsh was absolutely unbelievable again. Like, Owen Gallagher was on him, who is lightning quick and who is, I think, is a fantastic player, and he had his fill of it with him, because at one stage he had to call in 2 or 3 guys to come in and help him. He just led the line so brilliantly yesterday. Like, he was in absolutely everything he did was top notch. And he
what sort of man do you put on him?
Well, you put on him. I think you need to match his pace. Obviously, you need to match his ability to step. And I don't think you put a dog on him, you know, because he's too big. He's physical enough with you. You know, he's well able to hold guys off and do what he needs to do. So I think you need to put a player on him. What Gallagher probably didn't do enough of was go the other way. You know, he probably didn't take him
to tire
for a
him
run.
out.
Yeah, he probably didn't take him for a run enough. But I'd say he was saying to himself, I might just take a break, because, you know, Walsh wasn't just getting it and shifting it off. He was getting it. He was going on runs. He was, you know, holding on to the ball. So he was tiring him out too. But he was excellent. Galway, they came back really well. Like, I mean, Donegal had ample opportunities to level it, 2 frees right at the death. I mean, it looked like the referee just wanted a draw. Yeah. But, you know, they came out. And it's a big win for Pádraig Joyce. He'd be delighted with that.
It is a big win. Shane Walsh only 26. This is his absolute peaks now for the next 3 years. So we can look forward to this. Is great. Yeah. The other one I wanted to talk about was I saw James Horan saying that Mayo pinched 2 points against Meath. They beat Meath by a point, 19 to 2-5. Andy McEntee very upset with the timing afterwards. Is he right to be?
Yeah, like, I mean, when you kind of look across the, well, first of all, he'd probably have other things to be upset about, right? Like, I mean, the shot selection by some of the Meath lads taking Hail Mary shots, you know, shots outside the range, fellas who should be sticking the ball over the bar, moving the ball in a bit, getting it to an area where they know they're going to have a much higher percentage rate of execution. Very poor. They were absolutely headless until Brian Menton and Donald Keoghan took a hold of the situation with James McEntee, and they got a few goals. Really well worked goal. But until that point, they were, you know, I think it was 46, 47 minutes, they only had a point on the board. So they had nearly 10, 15 minutes the second half without scoring with the breeze. And they looked like their confidence was starting to really, like, Brian McMahon won a mark, and then he went to kick the free and he kicked it 15, 20 metres wide, high on the right. And you could just see the players kind of going, oh. And when you're in that, 2 losses, you know what's to come. So, to be fair, a couple of their leaders stood up and they got the goals. 74 minutes was on the clock and it was 74:04. The ball was kicked out, they were a point down and he blew the whistle. Now, there was definitely a situation prior to that where one of the Mayo lads went down. There was a tackle, he was holding his head. And when there's a head, you're meant to stop the play. The referee actually didn't. He said, get up. But there was there was about 90 seconds there where he was on the ground. And I was saying, well, that's at least 2 minutes then of extra time.
Yeah.
And when you look across the other games, like as I said, the Donegal one went on for an extra, because fellas do that now in extra time. You know, I'll take the opportunity to go down. And there was one where actually the keeper came out, Henley, and it was like he kind of didn't know where the ball was. You know, he was kind of like, the ball was on the tee, you know, and he was walking around for it. And it was like, come on, you know, and then he walked, oh, here it is, you know, I'll kick it out now. You know, so there's a good 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Now, listen, that's hard for a referee.
They're all auditioning for fair
But
city.
I just don't know how the referee just doesn't click off his watch. Well, maybe they do, you know, and maybe that's why everyone's going mad. Like, I thought the Dublin one was
perfect.
absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I agreed, yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
He deserved the 2 minutes extra. So I think he's aggrieved, but I think when they look at it, Mayo were pretty poor now.
I was going to say, if Meath get something from that game, you're thinking to yourself, right, Mayo are right there in the mire. They've got 3 points now, which is a decent start to any league. But are they still there? Are they still candidates for relegation, Mayo?
I'm not sure of their running, but they were bad. They were bad. They were, you know, Kevin McLaughlin had to come on and save the day. Like, he gets 1-2, shows a bit of energy. They're very light up front. They're very light up front now, you know. So and look, of course, they've got some new guys in there, and they've obviously got fellas to come back. Aidan O'Shea did as usual. Mead were asleep for a while because Henley, I don't know how many kickouts he kicked out to his right. But for I don't know how many in a row, he just punted out to his right. And then Mead eventually took that option out for him because they put 2 guys out here. And eventually then he had to start going down the middle and to his left. And Mead started winning kickouts. But it's a very simple ploy because he doesn't have the length when he has to go across his body. And if you make it down the middle, you make it a bit more of a battle. But they were like, they had Keegan and the usual, but I just thought they'll struggle if they don't get fellas back soon. They'll struggle.
All right, one last comment. Pelstar Street GAA says, why is it the umpire's fault? Do players and managers have any responsibilities?
Listen, if I'm, if I see David Clifford on a yellow and I'm thinking, okay, just go in and rough him up or whatever, and like, I mean, if that's the style, it's going to happen.
We should accept that it's going to happen and empower everybody to make right decisions. So
correct. Like, I mean, the guys, the officials are in there to officiate the game, you know, and you come in, you have to have some common sense at certain times. And you've seen it before where fellas have gone in, they've gone, oh, actually, he's on a yellow. Yeah. And maybe I'll just have a chat to him rather than giving him the second one.
Anthony, good stuff. Thanks a million.
No bother, lads.
On Monday the 17th of February, some of the best football pundits in the country are going to be on hand to talk through the upcoming Champions League second round fixtures. Brian Kerr, Damien Delaney, Keith Andrews and European Cup winning legend Graham Souness will all be in attendance at the Alex Hotel in Dublin. It's all with thanks to Virgin Media Sport, which has over 400 UEFA Champions League, Europa League and Nations League games live this season. With these games being available to all Virgin Media TV customers, head over to offtheball.com/events.